I should be live now, double checking. Nope, still just showing the thumbnail. It says the broadcast is live. Got it. Understood. All right. I believe I am live now. Welcome everyone jumping into the live stream. Appreciate you coming in to talk markets with us. Lots to go over as we have seen markets move back just mildly. We're back at a little over 105K with Bitcoin's market value. And there are quite a few mini stories within the context of this that has been related to this pullback here. Obviously, 8 days ago, we were in celebration mode with Bitcoin brushing against 112K for the first time in its history, followed by some announcements by President Trump that we would be, or he was at least threatening that for there to be 50% tariffs on the European Union. This, as we have seen over the past couple of months, tends to cause a lot of havoc and pullbacks in the market. Yes, maybe he knew that, maybe he didn't. I'll leave the conspiracies up to the viewers. But regardless, we saw a pullback. There was a 2-day period of worry and doom and gloom, just like it was early April once again. And then we were able to start to rebound after he announced that all of these would be paused until the first week of July. So with that said, we climbed our way back, got to around 110K, a little over almost 111 at one point, and then we started to see some volatility and some choppiness, even with stock markets doing pretty well. So some people are a little concerned that crypto has actually been trailing crypto by just a little bit. I'm going to show the comparison chart here so you can see. Share my screen. Yep, I'm on it. Should be sharing my screen. I know there's a bit of a delay on YouTube. I'm on my own right now, so I can't. I'll just periodically check to make sure the stream is showing what it's supposed to be showing. But Max, if you are there, feel free to confirm. I see. Let's try this. There we go. How does this look? Okay. Sounds good. All right. So what we're looking at now is the price comparison of Bitcoin, the S&P 500, and gold. Generally, we saw a pretty impressive rise as we saw the all-time high happen. And then we started to see almost a strange little inverse correlation over the past week. So this is what's a bit bizarre about the markets right now. You can see right here, stock markets obviously were closed right here. You see a big drop on the 28th, even though the S&P barely had a drop themselves. And then right here, they actually rose while Bitcoin actually fell. So this is not typical. Of course, this is very short term and a small sample size, but this is part of the reason crypto traders are a bit disappointed right now. We've fallen 7K from the all-time high, maybe around 6% or so in total. Yet the S&P 500 is practically still where it was at its all-time high on May 20. I'm sorry. Technically, yeah, it was very close to an all-time high. either May 28th or March 3rd, but it's within like 1% of that. So yes, stock markets are holding up better. And we talked about this a lot in our biweekly report. You'll see it in our insights as the latest posted at the time of this recording. The biggest news as of late was the federal court blocking Trump's Liberation Day tariffs. And most people view this as good news, right? Because tariffs in general have been causing downswings, have been causing concern that the economy will not be able to trade and benefit from other countries' imports and exports the way they had before Trump announced these tariffs about 2 months ago. So with the findings where they said Trump overstepped authority with trade deficit, the theoretical assumption is that we won't see tariffs. But of course, the White House immediately appealed this. So they're going to fight this. And many people are annoyed about this too, because it's just going to delay everything and stretch out the uncertainty of exactly what the tariffs are going to look like, if they can still exist, if they're successful in an appeal, if this is just going to be dragged down because, the White House wants to save face. We're not a political channel. There are people that cover this stuff way more than we do and have better insight as to what the likely outcome is going to be. But what we do cover is how the crowd will react to stuff like this. And so far, there was an immediate bullish sentiment that popped out that was actually mostly related to the stock markets rising yesterday, but crypto barely moved. It was mostly just moving sideways, and today we've seen a bit of a retrace. Now, there are several reasons for the retrace. For one, we saw the crowd getting very, very fearful. Thanks, Max. Have a good trip and appreciate you stopping by. The crowd got very very greedy, that is, on May 22nd, the day of the all-time high, followed by a period of a ton of fear on May 25th. This was during his announcement of the EU tariff threats of 50%. And then we started to see kind of business as normal. So sentiment hasn't been a huge factor. What has been a bit of a factor is the overall bullishness and the long-term assumption that Bitcoin is just going to soar. This was a post by Vivek pointing out that the open interest by strike price, the most common option was the prediction of Bitcoin hitting at least 300K by June. Obviously, June is 2 days away. I don't know if this means the beginning of June or by the end of June. Either way, that's a pretty lofty goal to almost 3x, right? Like maybe a 2.8x from here would hit that goal. So that's not a great sign, considering the most popular option interest by strike price is 2.8x above where we are now. We want to see the crowd swinging the other way and assuming we're going to go to 50K or 40K by the end of June as a sign that we're getting a proper amount of fear and retailers regularly selling off to the larger holders. We also talked a lot about the actual mentions of tariffs, right? Every time we've seen these mini spikes, this was, of course, when the initial news broke, so we're never going to see anything compared to this unless something massive happens. It's always the initial story that will get the most hype. Either way, when you see these little spikes occur, whether it's because Trump announced a 50% tariff threat on the EU or he and China are putting a pause on tariffs for 90 days while they negotiate, these are the kinds of things that cause the volatility. For the most part, when it's positive news, the crowd just doesn't talk about it as much. When it's negative, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy where we see a bit of a downswing right afterwards, and it causes kind of uncertainty. People just don't care as much about what's causing crypto markets to go the way it's going when it's going up, if that makes sense. They assume that the natural progression, and probably rightfully so, natural progression is for crypto to grow and market values to rise over time. So when that's happening, it's just business as usual. Nothing to see here. This is just crypto being crypto, because naturally, as the supply gets more finite, and no worries, Maksim, feel free to jump on with me. He just messaged that he's done with his other meeting. But yeah, as crypto becomes more finite and Bitcoin has more and more demand, naturally prices are going to go up. So when things go down, there must be a reason. The crowd looks for attribution of this, and that's when you see tariffs become a point of discussion. I'm sending you the link now, Maksim. If I can find it. Try this, Maksim. Okay. Going back to the article that we published yesterday. So besides sentiment, besides the overall discussion, people leaning toward a very bullish future, there are plenty of good signs as well. One being the fact that supply in exchanges has really declined dramatically. And it's sitting, according at least to all the addresses that we cover, at just over 7% of all coins being on exchanges. That's a far cry from nearly 8% about 2.5 months ago. It was close to 14% a little over a year ago. So things are moving in the right direction there. According to Dormant coins, this has been a thing that is another good argument for the bulls, because prices have risen as dormant coins are moving back into circulation, and they did so quite regularly ever since institutions and larger whales decided to begin moving their coins as tariff easing was happening in late April. So as long as this line is going down, indicating that the average wallet is getting younger and younger, that's a good sign that we are getting a healthy level of circulation and tends to support bull cycles. So when you see this choppiness, even though this screenshot was taken a couple days ago when it was still 108K, I can say that the dormant line is still moving down for a 6-week period here, and that's generally 5-week period, and that's generally a good sign that we are still in some sort of mini bull cycle. If we start to stagnate and the average age of wallets starts to climb up again, that's when we need to get a little worried that the overall network is getting a bit too stagnant and people are stubbornly hodling rather than circulating their coins. Also, I wanted to point out, whales ended up taking a lot of profit right at the top, right? And this is no surprise. Anytime you see a big spike in whale activity, just like we saw here at a top or here at a bottom, that's generally a sign of a price reversal. There are exceptions. This one, we mostly just went flat after they made big moves. Same with right here. And then eventually we saw them resume pushing prices up. But this was a good sign that you could take profit and still buy back at a lower price. This was a good sign that whales were accumulating when people were at max fear around April 7th, when tariffs were just really causing a ton of concern. And then this was a good sign that we were likely going to draw back down as well. So whales absolutely contributed to the top that we eventually saw, as they usually do. I want to point out, when we look at the overall accumulation by whales, go back 3 months, and we'll just take off everything except for the 10 to 10K BTC wallets. Now here, we're seeing that it still looks quite good. This was the day they took profit. I'm sorry, right here was the day they took profit. You can see them go down. Then they actually accumulated a bit more, even though Bitcoin, of course, did not reach as high as it did back on the 21st, 22nd. And since that time, just over the past 3 days in particular, wallets with 10 to 10,000 BTC, which make up about 2/3 of the supply. Yes, they do, Maksim. Yeah, you can mess with your camera settings, do any of that stuff. So they've accumulated about 36K more BTC, about 12,000 per day, just over the past 3 days, and they're now holding a new all-time high of 13.53 million BTC. I can also add on a percentage so we can see just how much of the supply they're holding. Yeah, they're up to 68.09%, matching, just about matching what they were holding back on May 11th. So yeah, more Bitcoin have been introduced to the ecosystem. That's why they're holding more overall, but they're just behind the all-time high ratio of coins held out of 68.1% back on May 11th. Either way, this accumulation is very encouraging. You know, when you see prices moving down and the overall amount of coins moving up, that's a bullish divergence, right? Because these whales are very much controlling where prices move next, and they are anticipating another push up around this level. And that's why they're adding more as prices go down. They believe that Bitcoin is cheaper than its long-term intrinsic value to them. Therefore, they can accumulate comfortably as they're doing. So very good sign here. You just want to avoid, you know, these kinds of drawdowns from whales where they're actually dumping coins overall collectively, right? Keep in mind, this is many, many different wallets. If you want to know how many, I can actually tell you. But we like to look at them collectively to see just how much they're holding at any given time, regardless of any individual wallets out there. Yeah, so there are 151,600 total BTC wallets between 10 to 10K BTC, which is actually a bit of a drop. If you see this, it makes a little sense to me that we can see the amount of them moving down because, first of all, Bitcoin is getting more and more expensive, right? It was not as expensive back in September of 2024 as it is now. So it's harder to be a wallet that holds at least 10 Bitcoin. Now it's a millionaire, right? Someone who holds 10 BTC now holds $1.05 million worth of BTC. Back in September of 2024, that was only about $650,000 or so. Still a ton of money, but yes, as prices go up, the harder it is to hold that same amount of Bitcoin because it's more and more expensive. So I'm not too worried. For those who see this line and might be a little concerned, I'm not too worried about the fact that overall wallets holding 10 to 10K is moving down, as long as the overall amount is moving up, as we see up here. Maksim, I'm not sure where that setting is to change your camera. For me, I just go to the little settings button here and it pops up. I think I see you, Maksim. I see you, but I can't hear you if you're talking. I'll go on with the show in the meantime. Now, some of you may have been on social media and following this story of this 40x Bitcoin long whale. Yeah, I'm not sure, Maxim. Maybe it's something to do with your microphone settings. I'm sure you're messing with it. I don't see anyone in chat mentioning. Yeah, just keep tweaking settings and I'll let you know if I hear you. Give me a test 1, 2, 3 every once in a while and I'll let you know. Yeah, so there was a 40x Bitcoin long whale here, and it was just accumulating more and more. It was holding an overall position of about $1.2 billion, but it eventually capitulated. It didn't completely give up its position, but it dramatically dropped it. Many people presumed it had maybe a stop loss at 105. But yeah, the whole excitement around this was if Bitcoin goes below this whale gets completely liquidated. And people got excited assuming this whale knows things that we don't. Therefore, the price will not go below this price, right? People aren't rooting for a long whale to get liquidated because that would really be bad for all of us going long, at least. I don't personally own crypto. I've said that many times. But for those, generally speaking, for those who follow crypto, they're going to be long a lot more than they are short. Otherwise, they're not going to be following crypto in mass the way that we see the community do so these days. But with the liquidation price of 104.8, everyone said, okay, things are going to be fine. That's a good support level in case we do drop that low, which we are right above that right now, by the way. But either way, he or she has been a big story that people have been following, and it's been lessening its position as of late, which is has been concerning to people because the whale's been kind of wavering in confidence as of late. But yeah, a lot of people have been following this story. Obviously, $1.2 billion in a 40x position is something we rarely have seen in the history of crypto. Now, I want to point out MVRV. I'll take a live look. I just wanted to point out with the circles drawn here, there were 2 key points where it was a very good time to buy according to the math and probability of crypto, and it turned out to be true. March 10th, where we were way down here at below 80K. I think we got to like 74, 75 at one point. Both the short and long-term average returns were well below 0%. We then bounced, eventually saw both the long and short-term get above 0, meaning with the zero-sum game, traders were actually beating that game collectively in a trading sector where we're always hovering around 0%. These divergences indicate that you are either buying in while traders are on average in pain or on average in a ton of profit. As you would expect, the green means you want to be buying in when both the short and long-term MVRVs are well below 0% and taking profit when it's well above 0%. Eventually, even though we were still seeing both well above 0 here, this was the true point when the short term was getting well over 10% and the long term was well over 22%. That's when we finally saw that all-time high and then it topped out. Now, taking a live look, I know it's calmed down a little bit because we're back down at 105K, but just for those curious, to give exact numbers. Yeah, so the short term, the 30-day MVRV is all the way back down at 1.1%. So we're essentially in even territory now, where the average profits aren't well above or well below 0% anymore. However, because Bitcoin's had a pretty impressive 365 days, the average returns for long-term traders, those who have been active at least once in the past 365 days, they're at plus 19%, indicating we're still at a little bit of risk here. So if you're adding on to your position or buying for the first time, just know that you would be doing so with a little more risk because you're competing against traders that are already in long-term profit and they're about break even on the short term. Maksim, I still see you in the room, but I don't see any signs of your mic working. I wish I could figure out why. Try something now. I just pressed a button that may have fixed things.
And
Yes.
so it was not me. Okay, good.
I just had to keep you in like this little waiting room the whole time while I talked. I'm sorry. It's with Max not here. I'm kind of multitasking. So better late than never. I'm glad you're here with us. How are you doing first and foremost, and how are you perceiving the markets right now?
I'm doing good. Now finally summer is here. But many... It would be nice to go lower. Let's put it this way. It would be nice to go lower. We seem to be finished, if in terms of behavior analysis, we seem to have finished long move up with all this typical for the top inflow of constant super good news. Like everyone now buying Bitcoin, all institutionals, even Ethereum now have the same way. Yeah. Normally it comes at the top. Yeah, so
Right.
it's time to remove some hype of it, temporarily or long term, I don't know. So just from this simple observation, we should go down. And metrics you are showing and few others, like still cheap money on Ethereum, quite high profit taken on Bitcoin, still keeps the doors open to for another push. But for now, it would be good. Not many people expect Bitcoin to go below 100,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So typically, what no one expects, it happens in market. Without a reason. This is how it works. We'll see, yeah. So Bitcoin below 1,000 is... What is blue, by the way? Remind me.
Yeah, I was just going to check this out, and we can also check the 100K level, but this is showing bearish lower or below versus just bullish or above. And you can see we generally get them about even. That's why I can use shared axis, and there's less words on the red. But yeah, you can see this big fear spike right here. And these are 4-hour candles. So this is actually a sign that we probably are going to see some sort of upswing, even though we've gone a little bit down ever since that fear spike. When you typically see at least double or 2 times more than one over the other, it's a sign that we are getting a little too greedy or a little too fearful. Right now, we're a little too fearful, indicating a lot of retailers are selling or taking profit at 105K. And we already looked at, before you were on this call, Maksim, whales are accumulating pretty quickly, 10 to 10K BTC wallets. They're absorbing a lot of these coins that retail is selling whenever they get a lot of panic like this. So there's a good chance we might, rebound to 107, 108, something small like that. But I agree with you that long term, there are still some concerns, average wallets being so in profit still, and some other factors with uncertainty with the tariffs that are paused but not resolved right now. So yeah, that's what this is showing. Maybe we can look at 100K too, just to see how often that number is coming up. I'll do this as well. Yeah, not that many mentions, honestly. Take up the dollar sign in case that's messing with anything.
Then might be a sign that it has to be mentioned again.
Yeah, I got the query right now, and by far the most mention was when we went back above 100K on May 7th. Of course, that makes sense, but there's a declining level of interest about 100K right now, which tells me people aren't that scared of that number just yet. if we're getting really close to 100K, or the crowd at least thinks we might see 100K again, we'd see a big spike by this. So even though we saw that little fear sign on the last chart, this is showing that there isn't that much fear of it yet.
Yeah.
What else are you keeping an eye on, my friend, in terms of metrics? Anything that you've been watching yourself?
Thinking.
Yeah.
Definitely, I always like to. I was trying to find what could be a really strong narrative for the top, and I thought it's. Actually, I still think. As a matter of fact, I think it worked. It's just I didn't select the proper words. MicroStrategy, Sailor, everything kind of institutional buying. But it's not so simple to formulate a query on our. You don't know all these words or company which is coming up. So we need to include all these new companies.
Yeah, like BlackRock.
The others, I'm more talking about non-financial companies buying Bitcoin for their treasury. GameStop, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
BlackRock might be buying for their customers, that's fine. But all
New
the
companies.
who believe you must have in your balance sheet Bitcoin just because seller buying, he will always be buying. This kind of narrative. So this one I'm watching. Oh, okay. What is this interesting? What is this?
Yeah, this was the GameStop announcement.
Okay. So we need to combine. We need to combine these probably words, and that will be one thing I will be watching. Other than that, I keep surprised by high level of net realized profit loss. You saw yourself, yeah, it's very high. And as a result, declining MDA, mean dollar percentage, sorry, just say acronym, which typically is a sign of a quite ranging bull market, yeah? So
Right.
this makes feel, yeah. Well, I mean, it's not so vertical as we would see in a really strong market, yeah?
Right.
As we are here, what I'm thinking now, can we come back to 21? You remember in 21 we have two tops. I think it was May and maybe November. So I wonder, can we come back to 21 just to see how at that time it worked?
So here was the big drop.
Yeah, and then take it till we had second. No, not so much. Much less. Yeah, some here.
Right
Yeah.
here? Okay. So this was September 2020 through December of 2021, and Maksim.
And resolution. Make sure the resolution of metrics is like 1 day or less, if possible.
It's a little. I can just switch to line here. There we go.
Yeah. So it's okay, and also the metrics. Oh, they already 1 day, yeah.
Yep. Okay. I have age consumed hidden, but we can unhide that.
Age consumed is fine too. So when we start growing, yeah, strong profit taking. Okay, it's a bit different. From what I see here, there was not as prominent as now redistribution, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it dropped one time, but still, in general, it kept increasing. It was more like in accumulation phase. You see, starting from whatever it was on the screen. Wait, I'm trying to see May. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't see the data on the screen, but starting from May, it goes up a little bit down, again up. So generally, it's accumulating only at very, very, very end, close to the top. It's a kind of declined a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now we're in a different position. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this was just between October 20 when it began through like here. This was about 3 months, January 2021. So yeah, almost exactly 3 months. It went down 44% in those 3 months, the mean dollar invested age. That's a very steep drop. So comparing that to now, if we go back 5 weeks, it's only gone down about 4.5%. So yes, we're moving in the right direction. We want to see the mean dollar invested age going down, indicating that the average wallets are getting younger and younger on Bitcoin. However, this is not nearly the same as what we saw in many of the previous bull markets that justified we were just going to go up and up and up. So In short, we need to see an even steeper drop than this to really feel confident in the metrics suggesting we're going to go to 115K and beyond and see all these new all-time highs throughout the rest of the year. Could still happen. We just don't see that signal just yet.
Yeah, but generally it looks much better than 21.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can say from beginning of, if you extend to last 6 months, yeah, we almost went all the way back down to the level where we start accumulating in terms of this metric. Yeah, we're almost there, which was never a case in 21. In a sense, quite heavy redistribution, quite heavy. So it means at the moment I would just keep watching at following things. Number one, network realized profit loss. It should stay elevated or coinage consume for this case. Doesn't matter. They're both showing similar picture. And then we, if we are indeed in the, of course, current correction is good, and going below 100K is very good. It probably will scare away or will liquidate lows that we built. It's never a bad idea. And Ethereum going back to 2000 also not bad. It just, here's the point. On the way down, if we're going down below 100K, we must not see any meme coins pumps. Yeah, that will be not good.
Good point.
Yeah.
Do
you have this? I think there was a
coin social dominance.
Is it market cap from meme coins or is it social dominance?
I just have social dominance. I also have trading volume, but social dominance at least shows, the interest.
Dominance. Maybe for the next week you can build market caps. Just take top, but take at least 5 or 6 from Solana. Yeah. All this, I don't know, Fatcoin, Bonk.
Right.
I don't even know all the names. Of course, Trump, but take some of them and we see that is a,
Yeah, I just wanted to look
of course,
at
the top one, top ones for sure. But usually, what I will be looking for that this less or let's say less established mint coins, the new ones, they are not pumping like crazy, which is always a sign of still too much greed. So we keep going down unless it's removed. Yeah. What is the big green here on the screen?
Yeah, this was build on B. Which jumped 74.5%. I know almost nothing about it.
Whatever it is, I don't know. Yeah.
Is Shiba Bitcoin really the 3rd largest meme coin? I'm not sure about it. I don't hear about it.
You ask me. I'm a boomer looking into more established coins. And this is then 2 things. Yeah. Continuing level of network realized profit loss, which should be especially active if we keep going down below 100K, so that it will indicate people get into panic and say, okay, now I need to sell. So it's good. It's very good environment. And no pumping on, let's say, 5, 6, 7 meme coins. Yeah, if I don't see it, good. It's my preferred scenario. We should continue up, but like Toncoin with this announcement recently pumped, I don't know how, like 20% just in one day. Now it's correcting, which is good. Hyperliquid been growing a lot and a lot of attention because of this crazy traders on top of it, liquidating on tens of millions. So it should slow down, going down. Yeah, if we see Toncoin going down, Hyper liquid going down, meme coins not pumping, but at the same time network realized profit loss stay stable, good. We can try our luck and go long.
Yeah, it makes sense. If we just go to the overall, Grok was a huge gainer, up 50%. I think there's some strange ranking orders here on the screener. That might be what's going on. But either way, yeah, Grok was a big winner. Doge getting crushed. XRP actually really dropped a lot, 8.1%. Bitcoin down 3.5%. We didn't mention the fact that Ethereum has been outgaining Bitcoin for a couple of weeks now. Do you make anything of that, Maksim? Or you may have just gone on mute.
Yeah, I'm muted. Yeah,
Okay.
you mean that Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin?
Yeah.
No, it's supposed to happen. Yeah, I mean, it's been for how long? 1 year or almost 1 year. Sentiment was just in nowhere. So this typically when it moves, then it moves very fast.
Mm-hmm.
Just you never know exactly the time. So now it was the time. So it's normal.
It's honestly more than I thought. The ratio of Ethereum's price versus Bitcoin is up about 32% since May 7th.
Of course, it was heavily undervalued for a long time.
Yeah.
But as the saying goes, market stays irrational much longer than you have money in your account. So Ethereum was undervalued for too long time. So now it's on a big scale. You see, its retracement still looks not so big.
Yeah. 78% drop between August 2022 and the end of April. And then it finally started to jump about 32%.
Yes,
So.
yes.
Still pretty small, though, compared to just how much it's fallen. Wow. It's quite a perspective.
Yeah.
I guess final thing we can look at is just the alpha narratives, which I love. I think that our team did an amazing job putting this together. Just going to do a quick refresh, make sure it all looks good. So some of the trending stories, obviously Bitcoin is starting to gain a little bit of steam again. With its drop to 105, I think it's causing a little more discussion. Ethereum, you can really see right here, between the 24th and 25th. This is when it was starting to really rebound. It got a lot of discussion. Bitcoin Conference 2025 in Las Vegas. I believe this is where JD Vance, the US Vice President, has been speaking. So it's getting a lot of attention today. GameFi, slight jump today, not that much. And then this other big spike today is whales. Easily the biggest of the week. And there's a few things going on. Maksim, you mentioned Hyperliquid. Yep. There's a whale facing liquidation if Bitcoin goes under 101K.
Constantly, in both directions.
Crypto whales being the biggest degens and accumulating massive amounts of Ethereum. Whale activity increasing and facing selling pressure on Ethereum. So a lot more focus on Ethereum's whales for once. Bitcoin whales buying $8.5 billion in Bitcoin as price eyes 110 breakout. That's obviously changed a bit over the last 24 hours. Massive short positions being built by whales like James Wynn. Discussion on how whales built their wealth and investing alongside them. New all-time high. That was from last week. Hyperliquid whale craziness. So yeah, a lot looks like focused on the hyperliquid whale and that 101K liquidation point because we're getting a little bit closer to it right now. Kaido getting a bit of a jump too here, Maksim.
Who?
Kaito.
Oh, why? What happened? I missed
It looks like engagement in various campaigns and competitions. It looks like just promotional events and community members earning rewards. And then we have here virtual. The Virtuals.io ecosystem and its genesis launches game pre-sale for social rising and fake on Abstract Chain. Yeah, lots going on this platform as well.
Yeah.
So those are the recent stories we're seeing on social trends. We saw Solana earlier this week. ETF flows was a big story. We didn't look at the ETF flows. Let me see if I have that toggled up right now. One moment. I want to find that and just give you a quick update. This dashboard link. Here we go. Let's take a look at how the inflows and outflows have looked for ETFs as of late. Give this a quick refresh. Yeah, so Keep in mind that the days are 1 day behind. So the true date, this one that's showing May 28th, this was actually yesterday. And this was actually the biggest outflow day we had seen since mid-March. That's a big deal. So a drop total of $340.7 million moving in net away from ETFs yesterday. That's a bit of a concern, and obviously it's correlating with this drop here. Even though there were a lot of inflows coming in between May 14th and May 28th, which was Wednesday, it wasn't enough to keep propelling Bitcoin's price up. And we need to watch and see how today turns out, because if there's another big outflow, that could be a pretty big cause for concern here. So yeah, watch this dashboard here. I'm going to drop the link in the chat so you have it.
Very good overview. Simple to follow.
Yeah, I love this dashboard here. It's really helpful.
If I'm not mistaken, you can even see it. Do you only need to register, or is it for free? I don't.
This is completely free, yeah. Even if you're not even logged in, you can see this dashboard at any time.
Yeah, makes sense.
And they also, our developers added the trending stories dashboard here. I think you do have to be signed in to see it, but it's in beta right now. I'll drop the link in the chat here as well, so you guys can check that out. And it's a really cool tool. Well, now I lost it again. Here it is. So it's a really cool tool to see kind of the bigger developing stories that are generating some hype across social media right now. It'll even give you a meter to see how bullish or bearish the crowd is on that particular story. And it's a cool alternative to looking at the trending words that mostly just look at singular words by themselves as opposed to the full stories. So you can, just like the other dashboards, check out the full summary, explains what the context is behind SEC crypto update or Ulbricht's Bitcoin return, stuff like that. You can toggle and go straight to the social trends page. Win liquidated loss, sold trending now. Yeah, I'm still exploring the dashboard myself, but it's a lot of fun to go through. So definitely check that out if you can. It's free, just like the ETF dashboard that we linked in there, also being free. But that's about all I've got. Maksim, what do you think what are you going to be monitoring over the next week before our next call? Anything sticking out?
No. The same as I said. Network realized profit loss, or CoinEdge for this sake. Meme coins behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And basically that's it. Of course, I monitor and see what is the fit of the news. Or maybe I will pay close attention now to utilization of stablecoin reserves by relatively big wallets. We'll see if when markets hopefully sliding down, if they start deploying stables. Yeah, so it might give some hint how much of buying power still there. Yeah? So, but it's a kind of more nuanced metric.
Yeah, I think those are good suggestions. I was going to add to it, just watch the MVRVs, everyone. When Bitcoin's 30-day MVRV goes below zero, that would be a great justifiable buy spot for sure, especially if the 365-day one starts to get down here. I also recommend watching funding rates. I think it's a little underrated. You can see a few points over the past week where people were really shorting a lot. Make this a little more granular. But you can see when they get really short here, prices do tend to bounce a little bit. So watch how things look on, DYDX, Binance, and BitMEX. Prices go the opposite direction of these big funding rate spikes. So when people are super long, be a little worried. When people are super short, you can buy with more confidence. But that's what we got for today, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe to our YouTube if you haven't done so yet. We'd love to hear from you. And Maksim, now that we've got a good idea of how to admit people into the room, sorry for
Yes.
keeping you on timeout unintentionally there, but I'm glad you could join for most of the call, and your insights are always incredibly appreciated and valued.
Thank you. I don't think it's so easy also to follow what I give as a insight or suggestion. I'm more like sharing the way of analysis. But okay, if there are people appreciate it, it's good. Good.
I guarantee that they do. But thanks for joining. We will be back with you next week. We'll give you guys a little more heads up on the time, so it's not so spontaneous, but we're still ironing out the kinks of our new streaming platform, which I think is going pretty well overall once we figure out how to use it.
Yes.
Yeah. But have a good weekend, everyone. And Maksim, enjoy yourself as well. And we'll talk to you next week, okay?
Yeah. Have a good time, Brian. Yeah. Bye-bye.
You betcha. Bye, guys.